I pretended not to know. He was cheating until I exposed him at our anniversary party. The champagne flute trembled slightly in my hand as I watched Daniel laugh with his colleagues across the banquet hall. To everyone else at our 10th anniversary party, we were the perfect couple. Successful, beautiful, enviable. They had no idea that in exactly 15 minutes I would shatter that illusion forever. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it all began to unravel. 6 months ago, I thought I had everything. Daniel and I lived in a stunning penthouse overlooking the city, both thriving in our careers. He is a senior partner at a prestigious law firm, me as the creative director of a boutique advertising agency. We hosted dinner parties that people begged to be invited to vacationed in exotic locations, and still looked at each other with what I believe was genuine affection after a decade together. The first crack in our perfect facade appeared on a mundane Tuesday evening. Daniel had texted saying he'd be working late, again. This had become increasingly common over the past year, but I'd attributed it to a major merger his firm was handling. That night, however, I decided to surprise him with dinner from his favorite Thai restaurant. The law firm's building was mostly dark when I arrived, save for a few scattered windows glowing against the night sky. The security guard Carlos, whom I'd known for years, waved me through with a smile. Working late again, Mrs. Chen. You know, Daniel, I laughed, holding up the takeout bags. Married to the job, the elevator ride to the 40th floor felt longer than usual. When the doors opened to the corporate floor, the usual buzz of activity was replaced by an eerie silence. I made my way through the maze of cubicles toward Daniel's corner office, my heels clicking against the polished floor. That's when I heard it. Laughter. Not just any laughter, but Daniel's distinctive deep chuckle, mixed with something else. A woman's giggle. My steps slowed as I approached his office door, which was slightly ajar. "Ah, you're terrible," a female voice purred. "What if someone sees us?" "Everyone's gone home," Daniel replied, his voice carrying a tone I recognized all too well. The one he used to use with me. "Besides, you're worth the risk, Sophia." Sophia, his paralegal. 26 years old, fresh out of law school, with legs that went on for miles, and ambitions that reached even higher. My first instinct was to burst through the door to confront them with all the fury of a woman scorned. But something held me back. Maybe it was the calculating part of my brain that had made me successful in advertising, the part that knew timing was everything. Instead, I quietly backed away, my heart pounding so hard I was sure they must hear it through the walls. I left the building in a daze, tossing the Thai food in the first trash can I passed. Carlos called out a goodbye, but I barely heard him. My mind was racing, replaying every late night, every business trip, every time Daniel's phone had buzzed. And he'd smiled that secret smile before excusing himself. That night, Daniel came home around midnight, sliding into bed beside me with practiced stealth. "Sorry, baby," he whispered, kissing my shoulder. The merger documents were a nightmare. I kept my breathing steady, feigning sleep, while inside, I wanted to scream. The cologne he wore couldn't quite mask the scent of her perfume, something young and floral that made me want to gag.
Oh,
The next morning, I made a decision that would define the next 6 months of my life. I wouldn't confront him, not yet. Instead, I would gather evidence plan meticulously, and when the time was right, I would ensure that Daniel Chen understood exactly what he had lost. It started small. I began paying attention to details I'd previously overlooked. Credit card statements showed charges at restaurants I'd never been to always for lunch, always for two. There were flowers delivered to our apartment building, but not to our unit. The doorman mentioned them when I casually asked about deliveries. Hotel charges appeared on days when Daniel was supposedly at all-day depositions. I hired a private investigator, a recommendation from my divorce lawyer friend, Patricia. The PI, a middle-aged woman named Janet, who looked more like a librarian than a detective, was ruthlessly efficient. Within 2 weeks, she had photographs, timestamps, and even audio recordings of Daniel's indiscretions. But Sophia wasn't the only one. There was Miranda from the gym, Alexis from the wine club we'd joined together, and even Jennifer, the wife of one of his law partners. The evidence painted a picture of a man who had turned infidelity into an art form. The strangest part, I found myself almost impressed by his ability to juggle so many deceptions. It takes a special kind of sociopath to maintain that level of compartmentalization. Every morning he'd kiss me goodbye, tell me he loved me, and seem utterly sincere. Every evening he'd ask about my day help with dinner and play the role of devoted husband to perfection. Meanwhile, I began my own transformation. I threw myself into work with renewed vigor, landing 3 major accounts that significantly boosted my company's revenue. I started working out religiously not for him, but for me, channeling my rage into physical strength. I reconnected with old friends I'd neglected, built a support system that didn't include Daniel. Most importantly, I began moving our assets, legally, of course. Patricia made sure of that. I liquidated investments, moved money into accounts solely in my name, and documented everything. Daniel, so consumed with his extramarital activities, never noticed our financial landscape shifting beneath his feet. 3 months into my charade, I almost broke. Daniel and I were at a charity gala, the kind where everyone wore their wealth like armor. Across the room, I spotted Sophia in a dress that I recognized. One Daniel had claimed was a gift for his sister's birthday. She caught my eye and had the audacity to smile and wave as if we were acquaintances. "Isn't that your new paralegal?" I asked Daniel, my voice carefully neutral. He followed my gaze, and I watched his jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. "Yes, that's Sophia. She's here with her boyfriend, I believe." The lie rolled off his tongue so easily. I excused myself to the bathroom, where I stood gripping the marble countertop until my knuckles turned white. In the mirror, I saw a woman I barely recognized, polished, poised, but with eyes that held storms. Patricia found me there. "You okay?" she asked, though her knowing look suggested she already knew the answer. "How do you do it?" I asked. "How do you watch these men destroy everything and just handle it so calmly in court?" She touched up her lipstick with practiced ease. "Because revenge, my dear, is a dish best served with legal precedent and financial ruin. Your time will come." The anniversary party had been Daniel's idea, which was ironic considering the circumstances. He wanted to celebrate our decade together with all our friends, family, and his colleagues. The more he talked about it, the more I realized this was perfect, the stage I needed for the final act. I threw myself into planning with an enthusiasm that clearly delighted Daniel. He mistook my dedication for a renewed commitment to our marriage. "You've been amazing lately," he said one evening, pulling me close. "I feel like we're stronger than ever." I smiled and kissed him, tasting the lie on his lips. The venue was spectacular. The grand ballroom of the Fairmont Hotel, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights. I spared no expense on flowers, catering, and entertainment. The guest list included everyone who mattered in Daniel's professional world, our families, and our entire social circle. I also made sure to invite Sophia, Miranda, Alexis, and Jennifer. After all, they'd been such an important part of our lives recently. The night of the party, I wore a crimson dress that hugged every curve I'd carved in the gym over the past months. Daniel's eyes widened when he saw me. "You look incredible," he breathed, and for a moment I saw a flicker of the man I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. "Wait until you see what else I have planned." I replied, my smile sharp as a blade. The party was in full swing when I took the microphone. The band quieted, and gradually the conversation died down as all eyes turned to me. "No, thank you all for being here tonight." I began, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. 10 years is a significant milestone, and I wanted to mark it appropriately. Daniel beamed from his position near the bar, raising his champagne glass in my direction. Several people awed at the gesture. When I met Daniel, I thought I'd found my soulmate. I continued. Someone who valued honesty, loyalty, and commitment as much as I did. Someone who would be my partner in every sense of the word. I clicked a remote, and the large screens around the room, originally meant for displaying photos from our relationship, came to life. But instead of romantic snapshots, they showed something quite different. The first image was a credit card statement highlighted to show the mysterious lunch charges. Over the past year, Daniel has certainly been committed to ensuring no restaurant in the city went without his patronage. A ripple of confusion went through the crowd. Daniel's smile faltered. The next slide showed hotel receipts. He's also been dedicated to supporting the local hospitality industry, sometimes even on days when he was supposedly in depositions. "Sarah, what are you doing?" Daniel's voice cut through the murmurs, but I continued. "But what I appreciate most is how he's mentored young legal professionals." The screen changed to a photo of Daniel and Sophia in a very non-professional embrace outside his office building. Especially Sophia Martinez, who I'm delighted to see could join us tonight. All heads turned to Sophia, who had gone pale beneath her carefully applied makeup. Her actual boyfriend, a detail I'd confirmed through my investigation, looked at her in shock. And let's not forget his commitment to physical fitness with Miranda from the gym. Another photo, his appreciation for fine wines with Alexis from our wine club. yet another, and his dedication to maintaining strong relationships with colleagues, particularly Jennifer Walsh. The last photo showed Daniel and Jennifer leaving a hotel together. Across the room, Tom Walsh, senior partner, and Jennifer's husband dropped his champagne glass. The crash echoed through the silent ballroom. So tonight, I concluded, my voice never wavering, I want to toast to the end of an era, to the death of illusions, and to new beginnings. I raised my glass high. To Daniel Chen, may he get exactly what he deserves. The silence was deafening. Then chaos erupted. Tom Walsh lunged at Daniel, only to be held back by other guests. Sophia's boyfriend stormed out with her, chasing after him in tears. Jennifer Walsh stood frozen, her perfect composure shattered. The screens continued their slideshow. Receipts, photos, credit card statements, a greatest hits compilation of Daniel's infidelity. Daniel himself stood in the center of it all, his face cycling through shock, anger, and finally a kind of resigned defeat. He started toward me, but I held up a hand. Your belongings are in storage unit 47B at Secure Store on 5th Avenue. I said loud enough for everyone to hear. The key is at the front desk. The divorce papers are on the kitchen counter. You have until Monday to sign them, or the next reveal will be to the State Bar Association about your misuse of company funds for personal entertainment. His face went white. Yes, Janet the PI had been very thorough. Sarah, please, let's talk about this. We just did, I replied. In front of everyone who matters to you. Goodbye, Daniel. I walked out of that ballroom with my head high, leaving behind the wreckage of a life I no longer wanted. In the lobby, Patricia waited with my overnight bag and car keys. How do you feel? She asked as we walked into the cool night air. Free, I said, and meant it. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Tom Walsh used his influence to have Daniel removed from the partnership track. The State Bar, after receiving an anonymous tip about financial irregularities, launched an investigation. Sophia was transferred to another firm, a much less prestigious one. The other women faced their own reckonings. Daniel tried to contact me repeatedly, cycling through apologies, anger, and bargaining. I never responded. Patricia handled all communication, and within 3 months, the divorce was finalized. Thanks to my careful preparation and Daniel's eagerness to avoid further scandal, I walked away with the penthouse, a significant portion of our assets, and most importantly, my dignity intact. A year later, I ran into Carlos, the security guard from Daniel's building, at a coffee shop. Mrs. Chen, he called out, then caught himself. Sorry, just Sarah is fine, I said with a smile. I heard about what happened, he said, looking uncomfortable. I'm sorry, but also, I knew something was going on. I used to see him leave with different women. I should have said something. It wasn't your responsibility, and I assured him. Besides, everything worked out as it should. And it had. My agency was thriving, I'd bought a new place, smaller but entirely mine, and I'd even started dating again. Nothing serious yet, but I was learning to trust again slowly. Sometimes I wondered if I should have handled things differently. Should I have confronted Daniel privately when I first discovered his infidelity? Should I have simply left without the dramatic revelation? But then I remembered the casual cruelty of his deception, the way he'd looked me in the eye every day and lied, the sheer scope of his betrayal. He hadn't just cheated on me. He'd made a mockery of everything we'd built together. No, I decided. He deserved every moment of that public humiliation. The last I heard, Daniel was working at a small firm in the suburbs, living in a studio apartment and dating a woman who, according to mutual friends, kept him on a very short leash. Sophia had moved back to her hometown. The others had faded into the background of my life, no longer relevant to my story. As for me, I learned that the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And I had finally reached that blessed state where Daniel Chen was nothing more than a chapter in my past, a cautionary tale, and a reminder of my own strength. The best revenge, I discovered, wasn't just living well. It was living authentically, surrounding yourself with people who valued truth and never again settling for someone who could look you in the eye and lie. My name is Sarah Williams. I took back my maiden name. And this is the story of how I pretended not to know he was cheating until I exposed him at our anniversary party. It's a story of betrayal and revenge, yes, but ultimately, it's a story of liberation. And if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing, except maybe the Thai food. That was an expensive meal to throw away. But some things are worth the cost.